course, that one.
Yep, that's it.
Will the members please take their seats, please? $132? Okay. Okay, the members will please be seated. Please be seated. We have, yes.
132, she said.
Okay. We have 216 total members. So the quorum number is 109. We have 132 members present, so we have a quorum. So the meeting is in order.
We're going to do a mass swearing in too, right?
Yes, after the Pledge of Allegiance. At this time, I'll ask everybody, all town meeting members and anyone else present who so desires to now rise and recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, Town Clerk Amy Hennessy Neves will swear in new town meeting members, both elected and at large. So if you are a newly elected town meeting member or you are newly appointed to a position at large, will you please rise and to be sworn in.
I'll just have you raise your right hands for me. Do you solemnly swear to faithfully and impartially perform the duties of town meeting member for the town of Milford to the best of your knowledge and ability? Just respond, I do. Thank you.
Thank you. And now Town Clerk Neves will read the opening of the warrant.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is the annual town meeting, May 18th, 2026, Milford, Massachusetts, Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Worcester County. To either the duly authorized police chief or constable of the town of Milford in said county, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth aforesaid, you are hereby required to notify and warn the inhabitants of the town of Milford, qualified by law to vote in town affairs, to meet in the upper hall of the Milford Town Hall, 52 Main Street, on the 18th day of May, 2026 AD at 7:00 p.m. In accordance with the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 10, the annual town meeting shall be held in the upper hall of the Milford Town Hall. For those seeking reasonable accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act, ADA, due to incapacity or disability and provide sufficient proof of such condition to the town administrator, pre-registration for the annual town meeting by Monday, May 11th, 2026 is required and part of the reasonable accommodation process. Remote participation or other accommodation may be permitted. The annual town meeting will there and then act upon the following articles. Article 1.
Does any member object to dispensing with the reading of the articles in the warrant? Hearing no objection, Mrs. Neves will continue with the reading of the officer's return of service.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Worcester County, Milford, Mass. Date April 14th, 2026. By virtue of this warrant, I notify the legal voters of the town of Milford to meet at the times and places and for the purposes within named as directed. Robert Tassino, Chief of Police. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Neves. At this time, Attorney Villani, who's town administrator, has made a request that Attorney Christopher Feudo, who is going to be speaking on Article 15, be allowed to sit in the at the at-large section. He is not a registered voter of the town of Milford. It would require the unanimous consent of this body. Does anybody object to Attorney Feudo sitting? Mr. Visconti objects. So, Mr. Feudo, can you just... Oh, hold on one second. Go ahead, Mr. Visconti. Go ahead, Mrs. Visconti, go ahead. That is correct. He is not, he won't be able to vote and he won't be able to speak on any other articles. Okay, all right, so there's no objection. So welcome, Attorney Feudo. Are there any resolutions? Mr. Mazzucchelli. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for attending tonight's meeting. It's warm today, so the heck with the Ozempic. We can just lose the weight just by sitting here. But anyway, my first resolution. Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned, with great sorrow and deep regret, of the passing of Vincent Squacciari. Whereas Vincent Squacciari was appointed member of the Council of Aging for 27 years. Whereas Vincent Squacciari proudly served in the United States Army during the Korean War. Whereas Vincent Squacciari served for many years as an assistant scoutmaster with Troop 2 of Milford. Whereas Vincent Squacciari served this community and this nation faithfully, unselfishly, as a loyal and sincere citizen. Therefore, be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute to his memory, and that a copy of this resolution will be forwarded to his family. And this is respectfully submitted, Milford Select Board, Paul Mazzucchelli, Chairman, Michael K. Walsh, and Thomas J. Olafin, Esquire, members.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzucchelli. I'm going to ask that all the resolutions be read before we stand in tribute to the deceased members.
Right. My next one, whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with deep regret and profound sorrow of the passing of Colonel David I. Darvin, Jr. Whereas Colonel David I. Darvin, Jr. was an elected member of Precinct 1 of the town meeting for 19 years. Whereas Colonel David I. Darvin honorably served his country with 24 years of active duty in the United States Air Force. Whereas Colonel David I. Darvin served his country with valor and distinction in 2 tours of duty in Vietnam and twice awarded the Distinguished Flying Cross for heroism or extraordinary achievement while participating in an aerial flight. Whereas Colonel David I. Davin served this community and this nation faithfully and unselfishly as a loyal and sincere citizen. Therefore, be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute to his memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to his family. Respectively submitted, Milford Select Board, Paul Mazzucchelli, Chair, Michael K. Walsh, and Thomas J. O'Loughlin, Esquire, members. One more. Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with great honor, with great sorrow, and deep regret of the passing of Gary W. Bonetti. Whereas Gary W. Bonetti was at various times an elected member of Precinct 4 of the town meeting for 19 years. Whereas Gary W. Bonetti was appointed member of the Cultural Council for many years. Whereas Gary W. Bonetti served this community faithfully and unselfishly as a loyal and sincere citizen. Therefore, be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute to his memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to his family. Respectfully submitted, Milford Select Board, Paul Mazzucchelli, Chair, Michael K. Walsh, and Thomas J. O'Loughlin, Esquire. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzucchelli. Mr. Walsh.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for being here this evening on this very, very hot night. Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with great sorrow and deep regret of the passing of Susan C. Leoch. Whereas Susan C. Leoch was an elected member of Precinct 6 of the town of Milford for 9 years. Whereas Susan C. Leoch served as an election poll worker for 14 years. Whereas Susan C. Leoch served this community faithfully and unselfishly as a loyal and sincere citizen. Therefore, be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting will be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute of her memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to her family. Respectfully submitted by the Milford Select Board, Paul Mazzucchelli, Chairman, Michael K. Walsh, and Thomas O'Loughlin, Esquire. Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with great sorrow and deep regret of the passing of Salvatore P. Cimino. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino demonstrated and exemplified a true spirit of public interest and responsibilities for all his civic duties, together with a keen interest in the desire to serve his fellow man. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino was at various times an elected member of Precinct 3, 4, 5, 8, and a town meeting member for 43 years. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino was at various times a member at large of the town meeting by virtue of being either the chair of the school committee, representative to the General Court of Massachusetts, chair of the Board of Sewer Commissioners, and a member of the Milford Select Board. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino was an appointed member of the Town Government Study Committee and an elected member of the Milford Charter Commission. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino was an elected member of the School Committee for 6 consecutive years. Whereas Sal P. Cimino served as representative to the General Court for Massachusetts for 1 term. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino was an appointed member of the Personnel Board for 5 years. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino was an elected member of the Board of Sewer Commissioners for 10 years. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino was an elected member of the Select Board for 6 years. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino was an appointed member of the Geriatric Authority of Milford for 14 years. Whereas Salvatore P. Cimino served this community faithfully and unselfishly as a loyal and sincere citizen. Therefore, be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting will be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute to his memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to his family. Respectfully submitted, the Milford Select Board, Paul Mazzucchelli, Chairman, Michael K. Walsh, and Thomas O'Laughlin, Esquire. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Attorney O'Laughlin.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, this is a resolution for Charles Miklasovich. Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with great sorrow and deep regret of the passing of Charles Miklasovich. Whereas Charles Miklasovich was appointed member of the Capital Improvement Committee. Whereas Charles Miklasovich, an appointed member of the Finance Committee for 53 years. Whereas Charles Miklasovich served his community faithfully and unselfishly as a loyal and sincere citizen. Therefore be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute to his memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to his family. Respectfully submitted, Milford Select Board, Paul Mazzucchelli, Chairman, Michael K. Walsh, Thomas J. O'Laughlin. This resolution is for Colonel Dr. Joseph Lopes. Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with great sorrow and deep regret of the passing of Dr. Joseph Lopes. Whereas Dr. Joseph Lopes served as a teacher in the Business and Social Studies Department of Milford High School. Whereas Dr. Joseph Lopes was an elected member of the Board of Trustees at the library for 9 years. Whereas Dr. Joseph Lopes was a member at large of the town meeting by virtue of his being chair of the Board of Library Trustees. Whereas Dr. Joseph Lopes served for many years as an appointed member of the Geriatric Authority of Milford. Whereas Dr. Joseph Lopes honorably served his country for over 36 years in the United States Army Reserves, retiring with the rank of colonel. Whereas Dr. Joseph Lopes was deeply proud of his Portuguese heritage and served as mayor of Prospect Heights, as well as a historian for Prospect Heights Mayors Association. Whereas Dr. Joseph Lopes served this community and this nation faithfully and unselfishly as a loyal and sincere citizen. Therefore be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute to his memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to his family. Respectfully submitted, Milford Select Board, Paul Mazzucchelli, Chairman, Michael K. Walsh, Thomas O'Laughlin. This resolution is for Russell E. Abisla. Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with great sorrow and deep regret of the passing of Russell E. Abisla. Whereas Russell E. Abisla was an elected member of Precinct 3 of the town meeting for 25 years. Whereas Russell Abisla was for many years an appointed member of the Capital Improvement Committee. Whereas Russell E. Abisla was an appointed member of the Milford Town Library Renovation Committee. Whereas Russell E. Abisla served this body as being a faithful attendant and taking part in and contributing much to our discussions and deliberations. Whereas Russell E. Abisla served this community faithfully and unselfishly as a loyal and sincere citizen. Therefore be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting be suspended while members stand in solemn silent tribute to his memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to his family. Respectfully submitted, Milford Select Board, Paul Mazzucchelli, Chairman, Michael K. Walsh, Thomas J. O'Laughlin. Thank you, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you, Attorney Laughlin. Town Council Murray.
Whereas the citizens of Milford have learned with deep regret and profound sorrow of the passing of Dino B. DeBartolomeus. Whereas Dino B. DeBartolomeus was an elected member of Precinct 3 of the town meeting for 12 years. Whereas Dino B. DeBartolomeus was an elected member of the Urban Development Authority, an appointed member of the Capital Planning Committee, an appointed member of the Commission for the Handicapped, and a twice-appointed member of the Police Chief Selection Review Committee. Whereas Dino B. DeBartolomeus was an elected member of the School Committee for 6 years. Whereas Dino B. DeBartolomeus was an elected member of the Select Board for 33 years. Whereas Dino B. DeBartolomeus was, at various and numerous times, a member at large of the town meeting by virtue of being chair of the school committee and a member of the Select Board. Whereas Dino B. DeBartolomeus served on many committees tasked with the renovation of town, municipal, and school buildings, including the Milford Town Hall Building Renovation Committee, chair of the Stacy Middle School and Memorial School Building Committees, and the Woodland Elementary School Renovation Committee. Whereas Dino B. DeBartolomeus, an avid fisherman and supporter of outdoor activities, served on many committees tasked with the restoration or renovation of the town's recreation areas and green spaces, including the Milford Pond Restoration Committee, the Fruit Street Playground Renovation Committee, and the Louisa Lake Renovation Committee. Whereas Dino B. DeBartolomeus was an appointed member of the Council on Aging for 9 years. Whereas Dino DeBartolomeus was an appointed member of the Geriatric Authority of Milford for 6 years. Whereas the passing of Dino B. DeBartolomeus is mourned by all of us as the community has lost a loyal servant who spent his entire life in the service of this community. Therefore, be it resolved that as a mark of respect, the business of this meeting be suspended while members stand in solemn and silent tribute to his memory, and that a copy of this resolution be forwarded to his family. This is respectfully submitted on behalf of the Milford Select Board, Paul Mazzucchelli, Chair, Michael K. Walsh, Thomas J. O'Laughlin, Esquire.
Thank you, Attorney Murray. And now, as a token of our respect and admiration, I would ask that the business of this meeting be suspended and that everyone here stand with bowed heads as a silent tribute to the memory of Russell E. Abisla, Gary W. Benetti, Salvatore P. Cimino, Colonel David I. Davern Jr., Dino B. DeBartolomeus, Susan C. Leoch, Colonel Dr. Joseph J. Lopes, Charles Chuck Miklosevich, and Vincent Squicciardi. Thank you. You may be seated. At this time, I'd just like to go over some of the instructions for the meeting. That is, who can speak at town meeting. That is town meeting members, registered voters of the town of Milford. Anyone else wishing to address this body normally needs the unanimous consent of the town meeting members. If you wish to be recognized to speak, please rise in place where you are, wave your hand, and just exclaim, "Mr. Moderator," and I will recognize you to speak. And when you come up, I may recognize you by name, or I may say the voter from precinct 4. But when you do come up to speak, please give your name and your precinct number if you're a town meeting member, or if you're a large person member, what your position is, or if you're a registered voter, what your name and street address are. The making and voting of motions is restricted to town meeting members. Main motions and amendments to a motion must be in writing, and the maker of these motions must provide copies for the town clerk and the moderator. There are time limits in debate. The sponsor, whether an individual or several people, is allowed 10 minutes for a presentation. A 2/3 vote is needed to extend the presentation for another 10-minute period. No person addressing town meeting on a motion for the first time shall speak for more than 5 minutes, and subsequent statements or representations by the same person shall not exceed 3 minutes nor exceed 3 in number. A 2/3 vote is needed to extend a person's speaking time in duration or number. Furthermore, a speaker's concise response to a question directed to him through the moderator shall not be considered a speech for purposes of calculating the amount of times used in speaking. A town meeting member may ask a question. However, questions must be addressed to the moderator and are limited to obtaining material information. Neither elected members nor members at large are obligated to answer a question. And just remember that a town meeting member cannot directly ask a question to another member. And finally, I just want to remind the voters that town meeting is a legislative body. By law, we can only act on the subject matter contained in each article. Town meeting is not a public forum. It does not have an invitation to speak. Anyone addressing town meeting must speak to the question. In other words, a speaker's comments must be relevant to the subject under consideration. Thank you. At this time, we'll hear any reports from any committees. Attorney Lazat. Thank you.
Andrew Lazat on behalf of the Finance Committee. Good evening, everyone. So when I was here last May, you may recall that I had talked about state aid and how state aid had been growing substantially over the last several years, and that we were concerned that our budget was becoming overly dependent on the state aid, which is about 1/3 of the budget. Next slide, please. Okay, so it just so happened that the timing on those comments is fitting right into this year. As you can see, we had a 10% increase in state aid last year. We had a 1% increase this year. So that was a $5 million hole that was blown in our budget. Next slide. So what do we do about it? This is the budget. You'll see the overall increase in the budget for this year is 2.5%, which is the lowest increase we've had in a bunch of years. And as I said last year, that was a fair amount of effort by the Finance Committee, the internal town financial team led by Zach Taylor, and the department heads. People worked fairly cooperatively, and we appreciate everybody's efforts on that. You can see all of the amounts were relatively modest. I'd just like to drop a footnote on this employee benefit issue. You see it's 5.5%. You might be thinking to yourself, oh, that's a lot better than it's been in the past. Well, that's because we're going to have fewer employees. If we had the same number of employees, the pension and health insurance costs for town employees would be 8 to 9% as it was last year. Now, if you don't know, I mean, the pension system we have for town government provides for what's called a defined benefit pension plan, which means people can get, depending on their length of service, up to 80% of their highest salaries. That is a system that has been transitioned out by the private sector a generation ago, but we still have it. We'd like to be able to manage it, but if these increases continue, it's going to break the budget because it's growing at 3 times the amount of the annual revenues. So we have a few thoughts on what can be done about that, which we're happy to discuss with people if they're interested. Next slide, please. Aside from the operating budget, we have what's referred to the excess levy capacity, which is the firewall against Proposition 2.5. The goal is to keep that at $6 million. It's at $5.5 million under this budget. We anticipate using a decent amount of the excess levy capacity, which is the ability to tax, in connection with the high school project. Something is going to be done at the high school. We're not really sure what that something is yet, and it will probably be a subject of heated debate over the next year or two, but that's going to cost us probably something in the excess levy capacity. And it's also going to cost us a fair amount of what's referred to as the stabilization funds, which you may recall is basically the town's rainy day or savings accounts. We have a long-term stabilization, a short-term stabilization, with a combined balance of somewhere around $35 or $36 million. We've worked with the internal accounting team to do some modeling on using a decent portion of that in conjunction with the levy taxability in connection with whatever ends up being done at the high school. Lastly, the capital improvements, you may recall, we try to set that number at $1,750,000 in May. It then gets supplemented with free cash or unexpected additional revenues or reduced expenses in the fall, where we try to deal with our capital items at that time. Next slide, please. These are the revenue sources. You can see it wasn't pretty this year. 2.3% is the increase in revenue, and the lion's share of that was borne by the Milford taxpayer. The state aid, as you can see, is about a third of the budget. It was less than 1%. And then we have other taxes and fees, which grew at 2% or less. Next slide, please. I addressed these issues before. We're going to have to try to work smarter to make our local government work from a cost perspective, limiting ourselves to the core functions of government, reviewing unnecessary tasks that may have outworn their welcome, trying to consolidate tasks and departments where possible to save money, and lastly is cost control. One of the biggest issues we have with cost control is the cost of employee contracts and union contracts. If those contracts are going up at 5 or 6% a year and our revenue is going up at 3% a year, that's basic fifth grade math. That is not going to work. That really leaves us with only three alternatives in that situation. One is to reduce the number of employees who work for the town. Secondly would be to raise taxes significantly on the citizens of Milford. Or third, which is hopefully what we're able to achieve, is to modify these contracts to be consistent with the town's ability to pay. Next slide, please. This is the last slide. This is what we referred to as the non-operational spending. Just a few items to highlight. Outside Labor Council, that is approximately a $50,000 a year cost to assist with union employee contracts and the like. We're replenishing that fund for future years. Police tasers, that is the first of probably a 5 or 6 year contract. Snow and ice, we usually dedicate $600,000 at the beginning of the year. We had to supplement that with another $860,000. People recall we had a heavier snow burden this year than we've had in the past. Lastly, the litigation settlement, that is a settlement of a discrimination claim involving the police department. The Finance Committee was briefed on that proposed settlement on April 29th, and the Finance Committee determined that as between settling and going to trial, settlement was in the best financial interests of the town, and we recommend approval of that settlement. And that's my report. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Attorney Lazat. Are there any other reports? If not, what's the pleasure of the meeting? Article 2. Mr. Long.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, Brian Long, Chair of the Milford Personnel Board. I move that the town vote to amend the wage and salary schedule of the Wage and Salary Administration Plan by establishing new position levels and salary levels as recommended by the Personnel Board for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026 as follows.
Mr. Long, is the wage and salary schedule in motion exactly the same as appears in the warrant that was mailed to all the town meeting members?
There is one change.
Can you please indicate to the voters what that change is?
Yep, under Section A, grade 13, there was a position on there. Now I can't remember the original name, but it's now Highway Surveyor. The Personnel Board changed it back to Highway Surveyor.
So the change is On Part A, where position level, salary positions, grade 13, position title on your warrant was Director of Municipal Services. That is being omitted and replaced with Highway Surveyor with, again, an asterisk. Okay, are there, those are the only changes, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay, does any member object to waiving the reading of the remainder of the wage and salary schedule for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2026? Hearing no objection, the motion is made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Long.
town meeting members, Article 2 lays out the positions, salaries, and hourly rates for employees of the town of Milford based off the wage and salary schedule approved by this body. These are reviewed by the Personnel Board throughout the year in conjunction with Human Resources and the Finance Department. The Personnel Board asks for your support. Thank you.
Does any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 3. Mr. Walsh.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to fix the salary and compensation of all elected officers of the town as provided by Section 108, Chapter 41 of the general laws as follows.
Mr. Walsh, are the salary and compensation figures in the motion exactly the same as appears in the warrant?
They are, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, they are the same. Does any member object to dispensing of the reading of the salary and compensation of all elected officers of the town? Hearing no objection, the motion is made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Finance Committee's recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard? Mr. Walsh.
The Select Board is recommending a 3% salary adjustment for full-time and part-time elected officials. I urge your support on this article.
Thank you, Mr. Walsh. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The motion is carried. Article 4. Attorney Lazat.
Article 4 is for the operating budget. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate and transfer where indicated the amount of $166,711,157 as itemized in the report of the Finance Committee and proposed Town of Milford Article 4, May 2026, as may be necessary to defray expenses for the financial year beginning July 1, 2026, and that the amounts of money set forth therein be appropriated and transferred where indicated for the several purposes therein itemized, each numbered item being considered as a separate appropriation, and that the same be expended only for such purposes.
Motion's been made and seconded. At this time, if any town meeting member wishes to discuss or amend a line item from the Finance Committee's report, they may now rise to be recognized. Mr. Visconti. Okay. Mr. Visconti would like to discuss or amend line item 300 School Department 5110 Personal Services. Does any other member have want to discuss or amend a line item? If not, Mr. Visconti, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Visconti, Town Meeting Member from Precinct 8. I move to amend Article 4, line item 3005110, Personal Services, in the following way. On the line item Education, column labeled FY27 Proposed Budget, replace the dollar value in that column with $81,195,060, which equates to a 2% increase over last year.
Okay. Motion's been made and seconded to amend Article 4 as follows. Under line item Education, in column labeled FY27 Proposed Budget, delete dollar value indicated in current motion and replace with dollar value of $81,195,060, which equals a 2% increase over last year. Does any voter care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, according to the 4 leading school ranking organizations in the country, they all concur with their statistics. In Milford, the class size is well below the state average. Spending in Milford per student is well above the state average. Building square footage per student, once again, well above the state average. For years, we've heard the school department complain that the reason they need more money is because of the ELL students. We've all heard it and heard it and heard it over and over again. ELL, ELL. Well, according to our former superintendent, Milford has one of the lowest percentages of incoming ELL students. And still, every year, for the last 15 years, they have dropped consistently in the state rankings, while districts like North Quincy and Princeton, who both have one and two of the highest percentages of incoming EL students, consistently rank in the top 4 districts in the state. So that ELL excuse, I believe, has run out. It's run its course. Let's move along. Let's forget about the ELL students. Let's educate them, but let's not use them as an excuse for whining that you need more money. You've heard time and time again, both from different boards in this town, that we're running a business here now with our it's a budget, and it should be run like a business. Well, what's the first thing that businesses do when their revenue drops? I'll tell you what it is, and you all know: downsize human resources. And if that's what we have to do here, then that's what we have to do here. We have plenty of, as I said before, the ratio of students to teachers is well below the state average. So we have plenty of teachers and staff to cover the students and teach them. You've all heard of a gentleman by the name of Mr. Henry Ford, who started and operated one of the most successful companies ever, Ford Motor Company, which is still making huge profits. Mr. Ford set his people up because what you're going to hear is, well, you know, we have contract obligations. Well, Mr. Ford had contract obligations with his people too. He agreed to compensate them X amount of dollars for X amount of work. So at the end of the day, as the employees were leaving the factory, they picked up their personal belongings in their little cubby holes on their way out the door. Inside that cubby hole, they also found a sheet of paper. Now, this sheet of paper was either a white sheet of paper or a pink sheet of paper with nothing written on it. But they knew if it was a pink sheet of paper, it meant, thank you very much for showing up today, but unfortunately, we will not need you tomorrow or ongoing forever. We will not need you any longer. Hence the term pink slip. If Mr. Ford was running the Milford School District today, there would be a torrent of pink slips raining down all over the school buildings. This needs to stop, and it needs to stop now. They're taking your money, your hard-earned taxpayer dollars, they're putting it in a pile, and they're lighting it on fire. We have nothing to show of any significance on a positive note for the money that you are tossing into the school district. We need to stop this now. Please, send a message to this. By the way, have you, when the school department goes to the finance committee to beg for more money and whine, have you ever heard any one of their representatives say, you know what, we need to work a little bit harder? You have never heard that, and you never will, as long as you keep opening your wallet and emptying it in their hands. Thank you. Please vote yes on this amendment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Visconti. Does any other voter care to be heard on the amendment to the school department budget? If not, the question, the voter in precinct 6, is it 5? Thank you. Voter in precinct 5. And you can come to the, yeah, I don't know why that's there.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Town meeting members, my name is Brian Edwards. I'm a District 5 member. I've been teaching at Milford High School since 2009, and I just want to point out a few inaccuracies that were just presented to you. Currently, if you check the DESE profile for Milford High School, roughly 20% of our students are English language learners. Go back 10 years, it's 5%. It's not a small number. It's a significant amount of students, and the impact on the classroom is significant. As a math teacher for 16 years and a business teacher for the last 2 years, I can tell you that the demands upon the educator are significant, both cultural and language, and to diminish that is incredibly inaccurate. And I would also assure you that the people working at school are working very, very hard to service the students and their families as well as they can. That's all I want to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Edwards. Any other voter care to be heard on the amendment? If not, the question comes upon the amendment, which is to amend Article 4 as follows under line item education, column labeled FY27 proposed budget, delete dollar value indicated in current motion and replace with a dollar value of $81,195,060, which equals a 2% increase over last year. All those in favor of the amendment will oh my God, I apologize. All those in favor will please, I can't remember what the heck I'm saying. I'm sorry. All those in favor will please say aye. All those in favor of the amendment will please say aye. All those, thank you. All those opposed, no. No. Motion is defeated. Does anybody else care to speak to Article 4? Yes. Voter in Precinct 8.
Greg Allegrezza, Precinct 8. I just wanted to come up here and recognize the town and all of the administrators for having to deal with a budget and coming in for all of the town services that we need in this town to have it run with only a 2.5% increase in the budget. We all know, is from the money that we didn't get from the state is kind of just an abject failure at the state level. for bringing, allowing all this to happen. There's many municipalities and towns, there's hundreds of them that are just dealing with Prop 2.5 overrides. I know between like 17 and 40% of their property taxes are going up. And in Milford, we were able to be fiscally responsible. All the different departments were able to tone down, make cuts where they needed to, not overestimate their budgets, and we only have a 2.5% increase in our town budget. So I just want to say kudos to everybody for that.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Allegrezza. Any other vote care to be heard on Article 4? If not, the question comes upon the motion. All those, as presented, all those in favor will manifest by saying aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Article 5. Attorney O'Loughlin.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, I move that the town vote to enact certain measures as set forth herein, which are presented each year to the annual town meeting.
Attorney O'Loughlin, are there certain measures of the motion exactly the same as appears in the warrant?
They are, Mr. Moderator.
Okay, they are the same. Does any member object to dispensing with the reading of the certain measures presented each year to the annual town meeting? Hearing no objection, the motion is made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any vote care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator.
Attorney O'Loughlin.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, this article and this motion have been restructured by the Select Board at the recommendation of the Town Government Study Committee in an effort to save what has been perhaps unnecessary utilization of time at prior town meetings. This one article takes 7 items which used to be separate articles each year at the annual town meeting, and which always came forward in the same fashion to address matters which must be voted upon on an annual basis. Doing these as separate articles simply took unnecessary time, and the Select Board concurs with the Town Government Study Committee that it is a valid approach to do these as one vote. I'll briefly explain the content of this motion. Item A allows short-term borrowing when necessary under the applicable provisions of the general laws. Item B is the annual vote which authorizes the Select Board to take charge of legal affairs. Item C allows for proper processing of parking violation monies. Item D authorizes the Treasurer Collector to enter into what we refer to as compensating balance agreements with financial institutions if they deem such to be in the best interest of the town. Item E allows amounts that are recovered from insurance companies or third parties for damages to town property, notwithstanding the amount, to be spent directly to effectuate repairs to damaged property. Item F allows for contracting for up to 5 years instead of limitation of 3 years, which would otherwise be in effect. This is necessary for simple agreements such as equipment leasing, copy machines, and such items. Item G, the final item, authorizes the Treasurer Collector to speed up the process of collection of taxes in instances where a taxpayer in arrears is willing to deed the property to the town rather than go through the cumbersome process and somewhat expensive as it relates to foreclosures. I urge your support of this article.
Thank you, Attorney O'Loughlin. Any other vote care to be heard? If not, I'm going to remind the voters that the borrowing of money or issuing of notes under Measure A of the motion requires a 2/3 vote pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 2. Since no member has spoken in opposition, we'll take a voice vote. If the voice vote is not unanimous, then we'll poll the individual precincts. So all those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 6. Thank you.
Mike Lagajanian, Chair, School Committee. I have an exciting article. Article 6, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $4,322.43 from the excess and deficiency account, said sum being consistent with the funds raised from the vending machines in the Milford School District to be spent under the jurisdiction of the school committee for the purpose of student activities not funded in the school department budget.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any other vote care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 7. Mr. Mazzucchelli.
Article 7. I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000, said sum to be utilized for payment for the services of Labor Council representing the town general government and labor negotiations and labor matters with all general government unions.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation? Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any vote or care to be heard? Mr. Mazzucchelli.
This article seeks a sum of $150,000 to supplement the payment of Labor Council to represent the town in labor negotiations and labor matters with all town unions with the exception of Teachers Union. The unions that will be included will be clerks, fire, police, dispatchers, library, sewer, highway, parks, and Vernon Grove Cemetery. The Labor Council will also represent the town in all stages of any grievance procedures filed by a union member. This fund needs to be supplemented because previously the town paid town council and an outside attorney separately to handle all union matters, as these duties were not within the job description of the town council. Retaining separate designated labor counsel will allow town council to be able to perform his or her numerous duties as outlined in the job description. This division of labor for providing legal services between labor council and town council will ensure the town receives detailed, specialized, timely, and quality legal representation on all legal matters. And I urge you to support this article. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzucchelli. Any other vote or care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 8. Mr. Long.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, Brian Long, Chair of the Milford Personnel Board. I move that the town vote to amend the personnel bylaws of the town of Milford as follows.
Mr. Long, are the amendments to the personnel bylaws in the motion exactly the same as appears in the warrant?
Mr. Moderator, there was Section B was removed and it was amended as such. I thought it would be on the board here.
Okay, it's not on board. Okay, so to the voters on Article 8, Section B has been removed, and the other sections C and D have been changed from C and D to respectively B and C. So is the remainder of the motion exactly the same as appears in the warrant?
Yes, it is, Mr. Moderator.
Thank you. Does any member object to waiving or dispensing with the reading of the rest of the motion? If not, the motion is made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Unfavorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is unfavorable. Any vote or care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Long.
Town meeting members, the Personnel Board, in conjunction with Human Resources, routinely reviews its bylaws to ensure accuracy with current federal, state, and local laws and regulations, as well as accuracy and wording. Article 8 has 3 separate personnel bylaw changes consolidated into this article. Part A is a change within the bylaws regarding new hire vacation, simplifying tracking and documentation. Guidelines remain in place, as well as the amount of vacation time that is granted in the first 2 years. There is no financial impact to this change. Part B moves to change the pay for 4 custodial positions under the Article 2 related to Sundays and holidays. This change would move them from time and a half, or 1.5 times their rate of pay, to double time, or 2 times their rate of pay, for any Sunday or holiday they would be required to work for the duty of snow removal. These positions fall under the lowest grade of Article 2 at a grade 1. In review of the last 3 fiscal years, this change would have resulted in an extra $1,176.88 for fiscal year 26, $1,404.79 for fiscal year 25, and $437.10 for fiscal year 24. This was also an equity issue with unionized employees, as unionized employees are paid double time for Sundays and holidays. We also considered making this change in conjunction with the Finance Department. The Personnel Board feels strongly that it is important to properly compensate these positions for any work time spent on Sundays and holidays. Part C is a language change for the purposes of clarification without any financial impact. The Personnel Board asks for your support. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Long. Any other voter care to be heard? Yes, Mr. Lazard. Excuse me, Attorney Lazard.
Andrew Lazard for the Finance Committee. We had stated unfavorable because we were concerned about the general expansion of pay and benefits for all the reasons I set forth in my introduction. I'm happy to hear that there's been some retraction of some of these requested benefits, but frankly, I learned about these amendments 5 minutes before the meeting, third hand. No one has consulted us. Finance Committee hasn't had a chance to vote, so I can't take a position. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Lazard. Any other voter care to be heard? Yes, Mr. Allegrezza.
Greg Allegrezza, Precinct 8. I just had a quick question. What is the difference between like the compensation now and the vacation? Like how long do they have to work to get like to these levels? And is it something that we can maybe amend if this is going to add an additional cost to maybe keep a certain parts of these the same and just maybe do the double time for the Sunday and the vacation?
Thank you, Mr. Allegrezza. Any voter care to be heard? Mr. Long. Okay. All right, thank you, Mr. Long. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. No. Motion is carried. Article 9. Mr. Crisafulli.
Scott Crisafulli, Vernon Grove Cemetery Trustee. Town meeting members, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $10,000 from the sale of lot cemetery fund 2677, said sum to be spent under the jurisdiction of the Vernon Grove Cemetery Trustees for the purpose of buying back lots that were previously sold and which are unused.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard? Mr. Crisafulli.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. So in the last few years, there's been a lot of people coming back and wanting to sell lots they've owned for generations. It always becomes a big process that could take up to 6 months to raise the funding to buy the lots. So with this transfer, we will be able to take care of that in a timely manner for the families. I urge your support.
Thank you, Mr. Crisafulli. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 10. Mr. Wilson. Thank you.
Town meeting members, Christopher Wilson, Planning Board and Precinct 8 member. I move that the town vote to accept the provisions of General Laws, Chapter 39, Section 23D, permitting certain board or commission members to miss not more than one meeting in the course of certain adjudicatory hearings, and upon compliance with the above referenced statute provisions, continue to participate in the particular hearing process, and further, that the town vote to enact a bylaw implementing the above by adding a new Section 16 to Article 15 of the general bylaws of the town, with the section to be entitled Adjudicatory Hearings by Board, Attendance by Board or Commission Members, which section shall provide in full as follows. In accordance with General Law, Chapter 39, Section 23D, members of the Milford Planning Board, the Milford Zoning Board of Appeals, and the Milford Conservation Commission, when hearing matters related to the land use in Milford during the course of a public hearing required by law to be held, may be absent for not more than one session of any required hearing, and may continue to participate upon compliance with the aforesaid statute.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Refer to sponsor.
Finance Committee recommendation is refer to sponsor. Any voter care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Wilson.
Town meeting members, on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026, at a regularly scheduled meeting, the Milford Planning Board voted 3-0 in favor to sponsor and support the Mullen Rule, article for 2026 annual town meeting warrant. Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 39, Section 23D, also known as the Mullen Rule, if adopted by the town, authorizes a member of a regulatory board, committee, or commission holding a public hearing to vote on the matter even though the individual has missed one session, providing that the absent member reviews video content or a transcript, if available, from the missing session and certifies in writing that they have done so before the next session. This would benefit the members of the Planning Board and Zoning Board of Appeals and even the Conservation Commissions. Many of the surrounding towns around Milford have adopted this decades ago, which had become law in 2026. Thank you very much, and I urge your support.
Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any other voter care to be heard? Mr. Visconti. Bless you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for recognizing me. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Visconti, town meeting member from Precinct 8. Mr. Moderator, through you, I would like to ask the question to the sponsor. I believe he said the vote was 3-0. Does that, for clarification purposes, does that mean that there were only 3 members present at that meeting? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Visconti. Any voter care to be heard? Mr. Wilson.
Chris Wilson, Milford Planning Board. In reference to the question from the other town meeting member, yes, to my understanding, there were 3 members of the 5 members that had voted in support of this article.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wilson. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 11. Attorney Moody.
Mr. Moderator, ladies and gentlemen, Jerry Moody, Precinct 6, and very part-time clerk to the Board of Water Commissioners. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to appropriate the sum of $4 million, said sum to be used to pay costs of designing, constructing, furnishing, and equipping PFA's treatment upgrades of the Godfrey Brook treatment plant, including the payment of all other costs incidental or related thereto, and that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the select board, is authorized to borrow said amount under and pursuant to General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7, Clause 1, or any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town, therefore, all or any portion of the amount authorized to be borrowed by this vote may be obtained through the Massachusetts Clean Water Trust, and in that regard, the Select Board and Treasurer are authorized to execute and deliver any and all documents and agreements that may be required by the Trust and the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection to evidence any such borrowing. The total amount authorized to be borrowed for this project shall be reduced to the extent of any grants or gifts that may be received by the town on account of this project.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator.
Attorney Moody.
Mr. Moderator, thank you for recognizing me, Mr. Moderator. This project has to do with the Godfrey Brook well field, which is one of our major sources of supply in Milford. It has been undergoing renovations for several years, started by the Milford Water Company, but taken over and completed by the Milford Water Department, obviously in an effort to improve supply and the quality of the water that we would receive. A lot of that was funded by developers over the years. Upon completion of the project, testing is required by the Mass DEP, and that went on. And it was found that this particular location had elevated levels of PFAs. And if you know what PFAs are, if you've read about it over the years, it's been becoming more and more common and a bigger problem. These are called forever chemicals that get into the system, and just as it sounds, they stay in the system for extended periods of time, not easy to eliminate, very, very difficult to handle. And the water supplies across the country are having to deal with these issues. So what happened as the project here was completed and testing was done, we were slightly elevated in terms of what then was thought to be the limits on PFAs. So it's very important that that be taken care of. So the project, the well field has not been utilized while we've awaited both federal EPA and state decision on what the levels were going to be acceptable. They finally did that. They've established acceptable levels. Now we can undertake the engineering and work that has to be done. We have no choice in order to clear that problem up and bring the levels under the newly approved state and federal requirements. And this project is going to be funded. The borrowing that you see here is up to $4 million. It's hoped that less will be borrowed because there are grants available. We've actually already used about $1 million in grants that will offset part of this. $250,000 was available and utilized early on. So it's moving along. There's this special fund that has been created that the town, as opposed to the water company, the town has this available to us. Water company couldn't have accessed this. So it's a very good interest rate, a low interest rate. And again, there's no choice in terms of the only choice we have in not doing the work is to shut down the well field and not use a source of supply. And it's an important source of supply. We need it. We've renovated it. And I think it's important to get this done. So I strongly urge your vote on this.
Thank you, Attorney Moody. Any other voter care to be heard? Mr. Visconti. I'll get to the voter in, what's that, precinct 7? Okay, next.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator, for recognizing me. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Visconti, town meeting member from Precinct 8. Mr. Moderator, a question through you of the sponsor, if you please. If this article is approved, will the quality of our water be brought up to both federal and state standards with respect to PFAs? And I believe, at least at one time, the state and the feds did not agree on what was an acceptable level. Could you clarify, do they both agree now on what an acceptable level is? And will our water be brought up to at least this acceptable level, or brought down, I should say, to this acceptable level? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Visconti. Any voter care to be heard? Attorney Moody, to answer the question.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. As I indicated, this project was awaiting federal and state determination of the proper levels, and I think I indicated that those levels had been determined, and they have been determined, and that's why we can move forward at this point in time. To the extent it matters, the rate, it's now set at 20 nanograms per liter, which is dealing with something like trillions of parts. It's not a huge amount, but it's something we have to achieve under that 20 nanograms per liter, and that's what this project will take care of, and we'll be able to use the water.
Thank you, Attorney Moody. The voter in Precinct 7.
Hello, Janet Carlin, Precinct 7, 12 Bradford Road. On the first line, it says to appropriate the sum of $4 million. But down below, in the info section, it states that the town recently received a grant of $1 million to address this issue. My question is, what is the bottom line to the town of Milford? $3 million or $4 million, and the original cost was $5 million? Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Carlin. Attorney Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. The amount is stated at $4 million, and the reason it's stated that specifically is because that's what the program under which we're going to borrow the money requires, that we appropriate through this article the full amount. I can't answer exactly how much we already have to offset that, but we do have money that's going to offset that. I think Mr. Condrey, the manager of the water company, may be able to answer that. Not to put you on the spot, Dave, but if the moderator's permission, perhaps Mr. Condrey can answer that question.
Yeah, I believe Mr. Condrey is a registered voter in the town, so he can speak to the question. Mr. Condrey?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Dave Condrey, General Manager, Milford Water, 16 West Pine Street. Yes, the total cost with engineering and everything, with all materials, is $4 million. We have a $1 million grant that we've received that is helping us with current engineering, et cetera. That will be put towards bringing the overall cost of the loan, if you will, down by $1 million. There's also a certain portion of loan forgiveness, which is about 6.6%. So another portion of it will be deducted off the total loan. So we're looking at, around $3 million, less than $3 million at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Condrey. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest. Excuse me, I forgot one thing. This involves the borrowing of money for a public works project. It requires a 2/3 vote pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 7. Since nobody has really spoken in opposition, we'll take a voice vote. If that is not unanimous, then we will have to poll the individual precincts. So all those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. All those in favor will please rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. Okay, all those opposed to the motion will rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. Okay. The lone wolf. Okay, Precinct 1. Precinct 1, 10 in favor, 0 opposed. Precinct 2.
16 in favor, none opposed.
Precinct 2, 16 in favor, 0 opposed. Precinct 3. Precinct 3, 14 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 4. Precinct 4, 19 in favor, 0 opposed. Precinct 5. Precinct 5, 20 in favor, 1 opposed. Precinct 6. Precinct 6, 17 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 7. Okay, we do not count abstentions. So 21 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 8. Precinct 8, 18 in favor, none opposed. Remote is 1 in favor, none opposed. And at large?
18 in favor, 0 opposed.
At large, 18 in favor, 0 opposed. I don't know why I'm even going to count the numbers, but... What do you got? 153? 153? Okay, 153 voting in the affirmative, 1 opposed. The necessary 2/3 has been met, and the motion is carried. Article 12. Motion's been made and seconded to pass over Article 12. It's an attempt to take no action on an article inserted in the warrant. It is debatable. Does any voter care to be heard on the motion to pass over Article 12? If not, the question comes upon the motion to pass over. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 13. Attorney Moody.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Again, Jerry Moody, Precinct 6, also a member of the Board of Directors of the Milford Community Media Center, Inc. Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $2,645 from the excess and deficiency account, which sum reflects funds paid to the town on an annual basis as license fee under General Laws, Chapter 166A, Section 9, by entities licensed under said Chapter 166A to provide cable television services, said sum to be available to the Town of Milford's cable access entity, Milford Community Media Center, Inc., for the provision of continued and improved PEG access services to cable television subscribers in Milford.
Thank you. Motion's been made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard?
Yeah, Mr. Moderator, thank you very briefly, ladies and gentlemen. The cable entity, Milford Community Media Center, Inc., which provides all of our cable television services, public, educational, governmental, broadcast mini meetings, public events, concerts, sporting events, which maybe many of you watch, maybe some of you don't, is funded almost exclusively by revenues that are controlled ultimately by federal law from the two cable companies. And the most we can obtain from the cable companies is 5% of gross revenues. We've negotiated up to that several years ago. Difficulty is the gross revenues, the 5%. What's happening, of course, as you may all be aware, many of you may have done it, people are, as they say, cutting the cable and going just to streaming services. So if you look back to 2013, when this entity began operating in this fashion through the funds that were funneled to it by the Board of Selectmen who created the entity, there were over 10,000 subscribers. Now there's barely 5,000. There's been a 48% drop in this time in the number of subscribers, obviously having an impact on how much that 5% produces. Fortunately or unfortunately, the cable companies do keep raising their rates, so the squeeze is not as bad as it might be, but the squeeze has been there, and the net effect has been a reduction in staff, even though the demand for services and for more and more broadcasting continues. And this group of people, very low paid, very hard working, have done a good job, frankly, and they do a better and better job all the time. We're just looking for every possible way to bring in money to keep it operational. It's a very small amount of money. It's directly related to cable television. It's the 50 cents per subscriber that's paid for each one of these companies. Well, thus, in effect, with an annual vote, which will have to be done, this small amount will be able to be utilized by this entity to try to help support it and keep it going. So, again, we greatly appreciate your support in this article.
Thank you, Attorney Moody. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 14. Mr. Crisafulli.
Mr. Moderator, town meeting members, Scott Crisafulli, Vernon Grove Cemetery trustee. I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $25,000 from the Vernon Grove Cemetery Perpetual Care Interest Fund, Fund 8242, for the purpose of having repair funds available for general care that cannot be covered by the annual operating budget.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard? Mr. Crisafulli.
Thank you. Town meeting members, so like every department, our vehicles are getting old, the maintenance is getting very expensive. So we transfer this money, we'll be able to take care of our vehicles and all the maintenance at the cemeteries, both of them, without having to come to town meeting or raise our budget. I ask for your support.
Thank you, Mr. Crisafulli. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 15. Motion's been made and seconded to pass over Article 15. Motion to pass over is an attempt to take no action on an article inserted in a warrant. It is debatable. Does any voter care to be heard on the motion to pass over? If not, the question comes upon the motion to pass over. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 16. Attorney Villani.
Richard Villani, Town Administrator, Member at Large. Mr. Moderator, Town Meeting Members, I move that the town vote to transfer the sum of $2,800,000 from the stabilization account as established under General Law, Chapter 40, Section 5A. Said sum to be utilized by the Select Board to settle litigation in the matter of Kara McGuire versus the Town of Milford, Worcester Superior Court number 2285 CV01140, and commission a review by a qualified independent consultant of the police department's hiring and promotional processes with a report to issue containing findings and potential recommendations relative to whether the processes are fair, objective, and non-discriminatory.
Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
The Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard? Attorney Villani.
Mr. Moderator, Town Meeting Members, I request that Attorney Christopher Fudo of the attorney law firm of Foley and Hoag be allowed to speak on behalf of the sponsor of this article, which is the Select Board. Attorney Fudo has been the lead attorney on this case from the date of the filing of the complaint to where we are today. He will provide a procedural history of the case, again, as to how it proceeded through the Worcester Superior Court. He will also discuss the terms of the proposed settlement to consider tonight. He also will present to you verdicts in similar type factual cases, jury awards. Also, as part of our case, we asked that Police Chief Robert Tassino be allowed to speak on behalf of, again, the sponsor, the Select Board. In that regard, Mr. Moderator, I move to suspend Section 1 of the Town Meeting Rule on speaker time and allow the sponsor's initial presentation on this article not to exceed 25 minutes.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to suspend Section 1 of the Town Meeting Rule on speaker time and allow the sponsor's initial presentation on this article not to exceed 25 minutes. A motion to suspend is not debatable. However, it does require a 2/3 vote. I will ask first for the unanimous consent of the body. If that is not given, then we will take a standing vote. So at this time, anybody opposed to allowing, to suspending the rule and allowing 25 minutes for a presentation? And Mr. Visconti objects. So at this time, all those in favor of 25 minutes for this presentation will please rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. Thank you. All those opposed will please rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. Okay, we got it. Precinct 1. Precinct 1, 9 in favor, 1 opposed. Precinct 2.
15 in favor, 1 opposed.
Precinct 2, 15 in favor, 1 opposed. Precinct 3. Precinct 3, 14 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 4. Precinct 4, 19 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 5. Precinct 5, 19 in favor, 1 opposed. Precinct 6. Precinct 6, 14 in favor, 2 opposed? Yes. Thank you. Precinct 7. Precinct 7, 17 in favor, 4 opposed. Precinct 8. 16 in favor, 2 opposed. Precinct 8, 16 in favor, 2 opposed. At large. 18 in favor, 0 opposed. At large, 18 in favor, 0 opposed. And remote? Remote, 1 in favor, 0 opposed. So the necessary 2/3 has been met. So the sponsors will be allowed 25 minutes for their presentation. Normally, I would ask for the unanimous consent of this body to allow Attorney Fudo to address us. But since this is such an important matter to the town, I do not like the idea of having to go into recess to hear the presentation, and then the recess is really not part of the minutes of the meeting. So I'll just ask for a majority of vote. Those in favor of allowing Attorney Fudo to address this body, please manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Attorney Fudo, you may address the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. My name is Chris Fudo. I am a partner at the law firm of Foley Hoag, and as Attorney Villani had indicated, I have been lead counsel on this matter, from the first filing of the complaint at the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination. The purpose of my presentation today is to give you a background into the allegations are at issue in this case. I say allegations because many of the, as in any lawsuit, many of the allegations made by Sergeant McGuire are disputed by the town. I'll also talk about the procedural history, how we've gotten to this point, and discuss the proposed settlement in this case, and speak generally about the risks associated with the next phase of litigation should the case not resolve. I think I have a presentation for you. I think they're loading it.
There's been a technical difficulty, so we'll take a recess for, I guess, 5 minutes, and hopefully it'll be resolved. Okay. So if anybody wants to take a little break, they may do so. Thank you. members will please be seated, thank you. Okay. We'll give it a minute. Okay, Attorney Feudo, you have the floor. We're back in order.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. If we could skip 2 slides. Sergeant, the plaintiff in our case, Sergeant McGuire, she joined the Milford Police Department in 1995, was promoted to sergeant in 2006. She filed suit against the town alleging gender discrimination, hostile work environment, and retaliation. It was given her tenure. It was the complaint of allegations was fairly lengthy, but it can generally be broken down to 4 categories of claims. One is denial of transfers and promotions. She alleges that she was denied lateral transfers to positions within the sergeant rank, as well as promotions to deputy chief positions, the chief of police position, and lieutenant positions, either because of her gender or because she complained about gender discrimination. She also alleges that she was denied certain training responsibilities and advancement. She alleges that she was subjected to higher standards than male colleagues, specifically that she was improperly subjected to an internal affairs investigation and other types of hyper-scrutiny. And then finally, she alleges that in reference to a hostile work environment, she alleges that she was subject to several sexual comments or rumors about her personal life. Next slide.
Next slide.
Next slide. Thank you. So this case began in May of 2022. That may seem like a very long time. I can assure you this is the speed at which Massachusetts state courts go at this point, particularly at the MCAD, which is where all claims of discrimination need to go first. They're the EEOC before you can move to court. She filed a charge of discrimination with the MCAD back in May of 2022. The MCAD did not reach a decision on the allegations raised or any of the defenses raised. What happened was Sergeant McGuire's lawyers withdrew the charge, as they are entitled to under state law, on August 16th to file suit in court. And so the MCAD dismissed the case, and she filed, and we filed a complaint in state court. That was filed in October of 2022. Between that time and 2024, we conducted written discovery, and many depositions were taken, including of many members of the Milford Police Department. In June of 2025, the town filed a motion for summary judgment, seeking judgment as a matter of law on all claims. And a hearing was held on that in November of 2025. Next slide. We did not get the summary judgment decision until April, but it largely went as we expected it to. A note about summary judgment: a judge will only enter summary judgment on claims if the judge determines that there is, based on the undisputed facts in the case, that the plaintiff cannot succeed as a matter of law on the claims. We will manage to get 2 types of the claims out of the case based on that standard. One, the court agreed with us that a number of discrete actions about which Sergeant McGuire complained, which occurred prior to June 30th, 2021, were outside of the statute of limitations and therefore couldn't serve as the basis of her lawsuit. Two, the court dismissed the claim alleging that the failure to hire Sergeant McGuire for the chief of police position in 2023 constituted gender discrimination. But because so many facts are contested in this case, the court otherwise denied summary judgment on the remaining claims in the case. And the reasoning was that the judge said that these claims, because they involve disputed issues of fact, it required a jury to hear them, to weigh all the evidence and make the factual conclusions, because it's not the judge's job on summary judgment to make those conclusions. And a trial for this matter is set for this December. Next slide. So, as we briefed summary judgment and then moved to thinking about trial, inevitably you think about what the alternatives are to going to trial. And part of the reason for that is recoverable damages. If you can't get a case out completely in summary judgment, you have to look at the potential damages that could be recovered at trial. If Sergeant McGuire prevails at trial, she may be able to recover compensatory damages for lost back pay, front pay, and the value of benefits. She may be able to obtain compensatory damages for emotional distress. Punitive damages may be awarded against the town. She'd be entitled, as a matter of law, to prejudgment interest on back pay and emotional distress damages. That's set by state statute. That's 12% per annum. And then, on top of that, if she were to recover on any of her claims, she would, Chapter 151B, the state anti-discrimination law, has a fee-shifting provision. So if a plaintiff prevails at trial on her claims, she would be able to recover all of her attorney's fees. Sergeant McGuire is represented by Todd & Weld, which is a very reputable litigation firm that located in Boston, and we don't know their attorney fees to date, but it would not surprise me to find out that the claim for attorney's fees after a trial in this case would be over $1 million. Next slide. We can skip that last. Next slide.
Skip.
So, the other thing to present to the select board and town council and the town administrator that we did was to take a look at comparative cases involving claims of gender discrimination involving female police officers in Massachusetts to see what jury awards have been awarded on similar facts. On average, those jury verdicts were around $2.8 million. Generally, that's before attorney's fees. But there were several recent high-profile cases involving the state police where damage awards in gender discriminations involving a female trooper ranged from $6 million to nearly $12 million. So these, I'm just going to flip through these quickly just so you can see what types of jury verdicts are out there in Massachusetts state courts when a jury determines that gender discrimination or retaliation has occurred against a female officer. The Downey case against the state police, this is the $12 million case I mentioned, including $1 million in compensatory damages for emotional distress, $10 million in punitive damages against the state police, and nearly $1 million just in interest. Next slide. The Donahue v. Watertown case, $4.3 million. Similarly, $1 million punitive damage is claimed, but over $2 million in compensatory damages, $500,000 in lost compensation, other damages for emotional distress. Next slide. The Winthrop case, this was a case that, was one of the smaller ones on the scale. It was a $2 million verdict, but still $1.3 million in punitive damages and nearly $700,000 in emotional distress damages. And it's important to flag on these jury verdicts that you don't see attorney's fees listed because attorney's fees are assessed after the jury verdict is awarded. So plaintiff's counsel has to submit a claim for attorney's fees, submit a motion for attorney's fees, and that would be litigated separately. Next slide. The Butner case, this involved a group of troopers, but the verdict in favor of the plaintiff in this one case was $6.277 million. And again, $1 million in compensatory damages, $4 million in punitive damages, $1 million in prejudgment interest. So that gives you an idea of when we talk about, okay, if we go to trial, and we are not successful, what does the jury verdict look like? Based on these facts and the understanding that, next slide, and next slide. Based on that fact and likely what we thought the summary judgment decision was going to be, which ended up being slightly more favorable than we anticipated it being, which was a good thing, we held a mediation with Sergeant McGuire and her attorneys on March 3rd, 2026. We did not settle at mediation, but we continued discussions after that point. After substantial negotiations, now I can't tell you where the parties started because the substance of mediations in Massachusetts is protected by its own special privilege, so I can't reveal the details of what was said inside and outside of that mediation session. But I can tell you that there were prolonged settlement discussions both that day and after that day. Ultimately, it became clear that the minimum Sergeant McGuire would accept to settle this case and avoid a trial was $2.75 million. So the Select Board reached a tentative agreement. We have a written signed term sheet with Sergeant McGuire for that amount, but it is subject to approval of town meeting. If town meeting does not approve the settlement, the case will proceed to trial in December. This is a big point about the settlement that I want everyone to understand. The settlement also provides that if the settlement is approved, Sergeant McGuire would be placed on administrative leave through August 2026, at which point she would retire. So if the settlement is approved after August 2026, Sergeant McGuire is no longer an employee of the town of Milford. If the settlement is not approved and we go to trial, Sergeant McGuire remains an employee of the town of Milford, and any adverse employment action which could occur with respect to her, and as is evidence, this has happened because there have been employment decisions were made where she was not selected for a promotion or a lateral transfer, could result in a retaliation charge that would go back to the MCAD. So it would not be the case would keep, not only would we be going to trial, but the possibility of future claims would continue to exist. So that is my summary of where the case stood, how we got to this point, and what the settlement would look like. I should mention too that the settlement agreement would be, if town meeting were to approve this settlement today, we would then, Sergeant McGuire would go on administrative leave immediately, and then we would be executing a full settlement agreement and release of claims with confidentiality, non-disparagement, everything, all the bells and whistles. So that's my presentation.
Thank you, Attorney Feudo. Chief Tessino.
I think it actually cooled off in here, but I'll be quick. I wasn't initially scheduled to speak about this, but a lot of people reached out and obviously spoke to me about this. I'm going to take it backwards, and I'm going to try to hurry up because I know we only have 25 minutes. It says in here about the initial article, having a consultant come in to take a look at how we do things at the Milford Police Department. Love it. Awesome. It's validation on what I've been doing there, my team and I, since we took over in 2023, right? This predates us taking over. We made a lot of changes. We've made a lot of progressive steps. I know it doesn't do us much good for this, but I look forward to an outside audit, if you will, for the police department. And if you think we're going to unpack all this there's no way it's going to happen, okay? Certainly there's things Attorney Feudo can't talk about, can't discuss, and the reason why a lot of you people reached out to me and wanted me to say this, because I said it to you, all this is certainty. What would you do today for tomorrow's newspaper? 37 years I've been in the back of an ambulance. I've been to your homes. I've been the first one there before the town's ambulances got there. I've resuscitated your loved ones. Sheer luck in training. Luck in training. I've never offered you certainty. I don't offer you certainty now when I respond to your house. This is certainty. So what would you do for tomorrow's newspaper today? This is certainty. I think our best course of action moving forward is to support this tonight on the floor and have certainty and closure, and let's get our audit. I'm excited about that. If there's something they can think of that we didn't think of, I love it. We'll have a conversation about it. I think that's important. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Chief Tassino. Does any other voter care to be heard on the motion? Voter in Precinct 4. Attorney Solomon.
Good afternoon, everybody. Melanie Solomon, Precinct 4. I'm not really in support of this, but I'm not really opposed to it either. I couldn't agree with Chief Tassino and counsel for the town more that we are in a situation where we don't know what a jury would do, and the likelihood of a jury issuing an award based upon the summary judgment decision that I read and based upon the pleadings that are on the docket is quite significant. Well, I think we are in a position, especially with the trial date of December 7th, of having to make a decision today. I'm a little bit disappointed that I don't have enough information to make what I think is a sound decision. We have an arbitrary number that is likely subject to settlement discussions, which are privileged information, so we don't know how that was necessarily calculated. But I don't know what the difference is between Sergeant McGuire's salary now and a promotion, and what that might look like over a period of when she would be due to retire, what that might look like in terms of her pension contributions. Those would be the compensatory damages that were referenced by counsel hired by the town. So does that look like $1 million over the span of the anticipated date of promotion through her date of retire? I don't know what that looks like. And so when we're talking about $2.75 million, that to me is an arbitrary number. I don't know if in reality, on actual compensatory terms, is that $1 million? And what do punitive damages look like? So there are a lot of questions from my perspective that make the number look a little bit more arbitrary. There is also the risk of attorney's fees. Attorney's fees is something that we don't know. Where attorney's fees are something that could be part of a case. After the case goes to verdict in favor of a plaintiff, that to me is something that would be discoverable, which means our attorney had a duty to make an inquiry to find out how much had been accrued in attorney's fees so that we know if that becomes part of an award. Does it really bring us up to $2.75 million, or does it bring it to something less? I understand that there's risk everywhere, and I do think that settling this case does make the most sense for all of us because we have control over the outcome. And the $50,000 is needed, as Chief Tassino said, in order to provide an audit with results and change within the police department if they identify an issue. But as much as I do encourage settlement, I just wish that there had been more information presented today from counsel, from the sponsor, about how we kind of derive that number outside of settlement negotiations, meaning what did that look like in terms of our real and actual exposure. So again, I'm not for it, I'm not against it, I'm just disappointed that I don't have all of the information, but I think that we need to leave this within our own control. Thank you.
Thank you, Attorney Solomon. Attorney Feudo.
Just to address a couple of the points that I can. I understand the frustration about the amount of information that can and not be shared. An important point to make is if this does not get approved, we are preparing for a 2-week trial in December where a jury is going to have to make a decision on this case. So That necessarily requires that the information that we provide be somewhat limited for this context. I will tell you that the number of 2.75 was determined through negotiation with Sergeant McGuire. It is not, there was no apportionment of that amount saying this amount is attorney's fees, this amount is for lost wages, this amount is for emotional distress, this amount is for punitive damages. That's not how this settlement number came about. Punitive damages, I know a point was raised, is like we don't know what punitive damages would be. With punitive damages and with emotional distress damages, we cannot adequately predict what those are going to be because the jury would make a determination as to what Sergeant McGuire's emotional distress damages are and whether punitive damages should be awarded, what those damages should be. The only information we have to make that assessment would be prior jury verdicts in similar cases, and that's why I presented that data there. So as you can see, while the facts are not exactly the same, if you take one of those jury verdicts as being the worst case scenario, that's where the range of jury verdicts you could expect in this case.
Thank you, Attorney Feudo. Any other voter care to be heard? Mrs. Bontempo.
Evelyn Bontempo, Precinct 4. I did listen to the Finance Committee's meeting on Wednesday, April 29th, 1926.
How'd you listen to it?
What did I say?
2026.
27. I'm sorry, Counselor. Okay. All right. And the Boston Council, Christopher Feudo, was present and spoke more than 25 minutes. He listened to many questions, gave appropriate answers. For me, this was the first time I learned of this discrimination suit. And what I am trying to say is that, except for the issue of the casino many years ago, all the years I have been Precinct 4 town meeting member, I've never been approached by anybody. But this time, 6 taxpayers, 3 in my walk. It was easier delivering 5 sons than having this total knee replacement. Okay. 3 on my walk, 1 at the Milford post office, and 1 in a supermarket. They stopped me and they expressed a variety of feelings. Disappointment about the suit, no knowledge of the suit, indignation. 2 were antagonistic. Some had emotional accuracy. Certainly, apathy was apparent, but mostly was the anger. The anger because they were so surprised about this discrimination suit. transparency, a word to me has no meaning. It doesn't mean you tell the truth. I think it's more to have a clear understanding. I could not give them any answers, and all was a very unsettling encounter for me. I also listened, and I thank the Signore Zachary Taylor, Thomas Brown, and Paul Abbondanza. Beautiful name, Abundance. All right, they made their presentation and spoke about where the money was going to come from, the stabilization fund, instead of on our taxes. Please vote favorably on Article 18. The financial ramifications would be huge if you failed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Bontempo. Any other voter care to be heard? Mr. Visconti.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Ladies and gentlemen, Mike Visconti, Town Meeting Member from Precinct 8. I may have missed this in the presentation, but through you, Mr. Moderator, if we could get from the sponsor, and I know this is difficult, what might be an estimated percentage of prevailing at trial, then we could say, or I could say, if it's less than 50%, then I suggest we pay a man, or in this case the woman, move along, cut our losses, and end this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Visconti. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. Voters are reminded that the appropriation of funds from the Stabilization Fund requires a 2/3 vote pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section 5B. All those in favor will please rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. All those opposed will please rise and remain standing until counted by the monitors. Okay, Precinct 1. Precinct 1, 10 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 2.
15 in favor, none opposed.
Precinct 2, 15 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 3. Precinct 3, 14 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 4. Precinct 4, 19 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 5. Precinct 5, 19 in favor, 2 opposed. Precinct 6. Precinct 6, 17 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 7. Precinct 7, 19 in favor, none opposed. Precinct 8. Precinct 8, 14 in favor, 1 opposed. At large.
17 in favor, 1 opposed.
At large, 17 in favor, 1 opposed. Remote. Okay. There is no remote vote. So.
Yes, there is.
Oh. And yes. Okay. Thank you. 145 to 4? 145 having voted in favor, 4 opposed. Necessary 2/3 has been met, and the motion is carried. Mr. Sanborn, I believe Mr. Sanborn wants to be recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I'm William Sanborn from Precinct 2. I realize it's late and we're all getting warm, but I'd ask that we consider Article 8.
Yes, Mr. Sanborn wants to reconsider Article 8, which is the article on amending the personnel bylaws of the town of Milford. That was the amendments to Section 5.8A, Section 5.9, and Section 5.12. What would you like to reason for the reconsideration? Yes, Mr. Visconti. It doesn't matter which way he voted, Mr. Visconti. Anybody voting yes or no can reconsider an article. Say that again, Mr. Visconti. That's not the rule here at this town meeting, Mr. Visconti. The rule is if you voted yes or no, it doesn't matter, you can reconsider an article. Thank you. Mr. Sanborn, what is the nature of the reconsideration?
I feel that the wording, first of all, was very confusing, and the corrections that were made during the meeting or prior to the meeting were not explained very clearly, at least not for me. At this point, I feel there's a low urgency to enact this change at this time, and therefore that I ask that we either reject or oppose this article or pass it over entirely for a time when the article can be clearly worded and presented as appropriately. Thank
Okay.
you.
The motion is debatable. Does any voter care to be heard on the motion to reconsider Article 8? If not, the question comes upon the motion. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. All those opposed, no. The motion to reconsider is defeated. We'll take up Article 17. Yes. I saw him walk out that way. Article 17, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Robbie Tassino, Precinct 4, Chief of Police. Article 17, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $84,000, said sum to be spent for the purpose of upgrading the Milford Police Department tasers.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard? Chief Tassino.
Robbie Tassino, Precinct 4, and Milford Police Chief. So the tasers, as you all know, we've talked about them before. You know, when taser first came on the scene, I wasn't a fan. This was some years ago. And for me personally, we'll keep it small focus group. I've seen taser save lives 5 times. What do I mean by that? People could have escalated to deadly force, and because we had taser, it wasn't the case. We were able to deploy taser, take these people either into custody or get them to the hospital, and that's me personally being there 5 times, okay? The tasers are expensive, and I know Al Correa loves capital planning. He's beat it into my head. So what we did is we stretched this out over 5 years. I was amazed that Taser was going to support this still, but they did. So we spread this out over 5 years. We'll have to redo an article every year. And the current Tasers we have, in July 1st, they're no longer going to be warranted. What does that mean? If there's a malfunction or something happens with Taser, the Taser company will not assume the liability, right? This is like a product upgrade. So this is, I think, a really good deal for us. It makes fiscal sense. It's good fiscal planning to push it out over 5 years because they wanted the money up front initially, which was like $500 and something thousand, I think. 420. That's why you sit in that seat. So they wanted that up front. We were able to stretch it out because we know these are hard times. That's what you have before you. I encourage you to support this bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Tassino. Any other voter care to be heard? Attorney Schweimer, I believe.
George Schweimer, Precinct 7. I'm in favor of tasers with one condition. Do the police use body cameras? And if so, they should use them whenever a taser is used. That's my opinion.
Thank you, Attorney Schweimer. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried. Article 18. Motion's been made and seconded to pass over Article 18. A motion to pass over in his attempt to take no action on an article inserted in the warrant. It is debatable. Any voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion to pass over. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 19. Mr. Taylor.
Zachary Taylor, Finance Director, at-large member. Article 19, I move that the town vote to transfer from excess and deficiency account the sum of $860,000, said sum to be added to Department Budget 423 Snow and Ice account as voted under Article 4 of the May 19th, 2025 annual town meeting.
Motion's been made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Taylor.
It's no secret that it was a difficult snow year this year. As the Finance Committee Chair presented, we started off with $600,000. This is one of the only accounts that can go deficit spent. However, we feel it's a smart move to clear the deficit to avoid it being raised on the tax recap. I urge your support on this article.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. Article 20.
Mr. Moderator. Article 20, I move that the town vote to close out certain special article accounts to the general fund of the town as follows.
Mr. Taylor, are the details of the closeouts the same as printed in the Finance Committee report that was mailed to all the town meeting members?
That's correct, Mr. Moderator. They are.
Does any member object to waiving the reading of the details to close out certain special article accounts to the general funds of the town? Hearing no objection, motion is made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator. Thank you.
Mr. Taylor.
We review annually all open articles. There's quite the few that are closing this year. We can confirm that either the project has been completed or they just simply are no longer required to be encumbered. There'll be $621,194.77 returned to the undesignated fund balance, which will become part of next year's free cash calculation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously.
Mr. Moderator, Article 21, I move that the town vote to transfer funds between certain line items voted under Article 4 of the May 19th, 2025 annual town meeting for the purpose of making funds available in line item accounts not sufficiently funded through the end of fiscal year 2026 as follows.
Mr. Taylor, are the details of the transfer of funds between certain line items the same as printed in the Finance Committee's report?
They are.
They are the same. Does any member object to waiving the reading of the transfer of funds between certain line items voted under Article 4 of the May 19th, 2025 annual town meeting? Hearing no objection, the motion is made and seconded. Does the Finance Committee have a recommendation?
Favorable.
The Finance Committee recommendation is favorable. Any voter care to be heard?
Mr. Moderator.
Taylor.
Thank you. I can confirm all transfers are within existing appropriations. Common themes are like overtime issues, certain repairs, and these will be necessary to have a clean closeout to the fiscal year. I urge your support.
Thank you, Mr. Taylor. Any other voter care to be heard? If not, the question comes upon the motion as presented. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously. What is the pleasure of the meeting? Mr. Long has made a motion to dissolve the warrant. It's been made and seconded. The motion is not debatable. All those in favor will manifest by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, no. Motion is carried unanimously, and the May 18, 2026 annual town meeting warrant is hereby dissolved. Monitors are please reminded to bring up their second attendance list to the town clerk. Thank you.
too.
That was fast. I was like a couple, what, last year or the year before, we hit 11 o'clock.
Well, there was only 19 articles. I was surprised.
Well, they passed over a bunch of them. And it was good because a couple of them I didn't even know what the hell they were talking about. Those planning board ones, I'm like,